Hello, today is April 26th of 2022. My name is Stefania Mendoza. I'm interviewing Myrna Hernandez for the University Library Special Collections and Archives at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, hereafter abbreviated as UTRGV. This project is in partnership with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Please know, Ms. Hernandez, that this interview will be placed in the University Library Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV and shared with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. If there's anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there is something you want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it. The University Library Special Collections and Archives will archive your interview along with any other photographs and other documentation you're willing to share. UTRGV University Library will retain copyright or non-exclusive right to the interview and any other materials you donate to special collections and archives at UTRGV. Because we are not conducting this interview in person, I need to record you consenting to make sure you agree with our interview procedures before we continue. So I'll ask you a series of 6 questions. Please say yes, I agree, or no, I do not agree after each question. So question 1, do you give University Library Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV consent to archive your interview and your materials at the UTRGV University Library?
Yes.
Do you grant UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives right, title, and interest in copyright over the interview and any materials you provide?
Yes.
Do you agree to allow UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives to post this interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
Yes.
Do you grant the University Library Special Collections and Archives consent to share your Zoom interview with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin for inclusion in the Voices of a Pandemic Oral History Mini Project, which will include posting the interview on the internet?
Yes.
Okay, as you recall, we previously filled out a pre-interview form. We use information from the pre-interview form to help in research. The entire form is kept in a secure Voces server at the University of Texas at Austin. Before Voces sends it, UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives, we would have stripped out any contact information for yourself or family members, so that will not be part of your public file. Your public file will only be accessible at UTRGV University Library. The final 2 questions ask for your consent on what I just described.
Okay.
Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview and your public file available to researchers at UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives?
Yes.
Okay, and last question. On occasion, UTRGV Special Collections and Archives and Voces receive requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give consent for us to share your phone numbers or your email with journalists?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your consent. Your experiences and stories mean a lot to us at UTRGV Special Collections and Archives. I look forward to what you say in the interview questions I will now ask. Okay. Okay, so this is going to be the script. This is just the purpose of the project.
Okay.
And the project question. Okay, so now for the interview. Okay. Okay, so Myrna, thank you for your time. Like I said earlier, your stories and experiences are valuable to us at UTRGV Special Collections and Archives, and to our partners at the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Because you are a gig worker in Brownsville and because you are a mother, I know you must have some meaningful stories and experiences to share on how COVID-19 has impacted these roles you carry out in your life. So before we talk about COVID-19 stories, can you please share with us a bit about yourself, who you are, and how you wish to be known? Who is Myrna Hernandez? I'm gonna mute myself now.
My name is Myrna Hernandez. I am 47 years old. I currently work for the BISD with special education students. I also work as a makeup artist and freelancer for a very important company, Dior. And I also freelance for Estee Lauder. I am around a lot of people. I am a people person. I love the contact with people. So this really did affect me, COVID, when it hit.
Okay. So this first section will be first memories of COVID-19 and understanding of virus. This first section of questions asks you to please share your stories and memories from when the COVID-19 pandemic made its first impacts in December 2019 to about the summer of 2020. And it also asks about what you know and what you'd like to know more about COVID-19. So the first question I want to ask you is, can you share some memorable stories about how you first heard or learned about COVID-19, whether radio, TV, children's social media, etc.?
Okay. So I first heard about COVID when I was working. We were working at the school district, and all of a sudden they told us that the schools might shut down. That was the first indication that COVID was going to hit. We had no experience. We didn't know what COVID was. Some people were already ill with COVID, but we did not know that it was COVID. We thought it was the flu. It really impacted us because we never thought that the whole world was going to shut down because of something like a COVID. We had no knowledge of COVID. It was very scary for us. It was scary for my students. It was scary for the parents. It was scary for everybody. We did not know what to expect. We would turn on the radio, the TV, and at the beginning, it was unknown. But then we started to see people that would actually die. And it was very scary. It was very scary for me to explain to my special education students that we were now no longer going to be in school, that we had to stay home, that we had to protect ourselves, no more hugging. They don't understand that. They're very emotional and they love to hug. So that was really hard for me.
Yeah, I remember it was like, it caught everyone off guard. It was just such a, because we didn't know anything. Everything was so new. We didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, at least things are a little bit different now. So that's something. Okay. Second question. What were some early reports or rumors about COVID-19 that you remember back in 2020?
So what I remember was one of my students was actually infected, but we didn't know yet. So this student came into the school wearing a mask. So to me, it was very weird and very like new. Like we did not know why was she wearing a mask. I just remember her telling us, I have to wear a mask because I have an infection, but that was it. So we had never seen anybody with a mask except doctors. So to us, that was like something very, very, very difficult to understand and to explain to everybody. So that was my first recall of COVID. And I do remember, people getting sick, but we all thought it was the COVID. But I specifically remember that student coming in with her mask. And that was the first time that it impacted me. And I saw somebody with the mask. And now looking back at it, it's like, oh my gosh, she had COVID. That's why she was wearing a mask. But it was in the beginning, so nobody knew why she was wearing a mask.
Yeah, I remember the masks were very like, I remember when I first wore one just because I was very like skeptical and it felt so weird wearing a mask, like just like going to like stripes. It was just like.
In the beginning, I felt important like a doctor.
Yeah, I know. And at what point did you realize this pandemic was a serious life-altering event? Or do you think it's not serious? Why?
When I first knew that this was something very serious was when I started to see people like on TV that they were dying and the bodies were left outside the houses and people were just like, in other countries, people were just like, if you were infected and you were dying, they would just throw you outside the house. So that was scary. And then here in the valley, here in Brownsville, all of, like, I remember seeing outside the emergency rooms, there was like freezers where they would just store the bodies. And I have a brother-in-law that works in the hospital, and he would always tell us that that's why they ordered those freezers, because that's where they would maintain the bodies. So that's when it was very scary that we would see people that were actually, like, dying. And we did meet people, like, we lost, just in the district where I work, in our department, we lost 10 in total, 10 employees.
Wow, that's crazy. 10 people?
Yes, 10.
Oh, that's crazy. Sad.
I know.
Yeah. So next question. Do you remember what was it like for you during the stay-at-home orders in 2020? Do you have any stories from this time you could tell?
So in the beginning, when we stayed home, it was kind of difficult because it was like all day home. I'm not a person to stay home. I didn't know what to do with myself. But then it hit when what is it? When you have to work, the essential workers
Yeah, essential.
were required to work. So I fell in the essential workers with the district. So I had to go work. So they moved us, like, from our department of working with special education. We had to go and serve food. We had to make food. So that was an experience that I never thought I would go through. We had to make food for the kids so they could go and have meals during the week. But then when they stopped the meals, we had to stay home, and I had to stay home with my husband. So we were here. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't go outside. We couldn't, it was scary because I even thought it was in the air. That's how, depressed I was. I felt I had anxiety. I felt lonely. I was just going crazy, honestly. I'm not a person to stay home.
Yeah, me neither. It takes a toll sometimes.
Right?
Yeah. It's just like, it's also because it changes your schedule. Like, you're so used to having a schedule, and then you're just stuck at home now. It's like your body's not used to that. It's used to doing, having a routine. And
yes.
Mind controls body controls mind. Yeah. Okay. Over the last couple of years, what news media, social media, or other sources do you rely on to keep you informed about COVID-19? Why do you prefer these news sources?
I rely a lot in TV only because I'm a very visual person. So I like to see the news. I want to see what's going on around the world. So if I only hear it, it doesn't impact me as much if I see it. So I see TV. I like to see the news on TV.
Okay. Can you share with me what you understand about COVID-19 as an infectious disease and how you feel it's impacted society? Likewise, can you share with me what you don't understand about COVID-19 and wish you could know more about?
So I do understand that it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. We don't want it. I'm very confused with it. I don't know how this was born, how it, went about, where it's coming from. I would like to know a little bit more about what can we do to avoid this if there ever happens another one.
Do you feel your family has the same beliefs as you about COVID-19, or are there some members who take it more seriously or lightly? How so?
I think we all, as a family, think it is something that we were scared of it. And I know that we all take it serious because we are all vaccinated. So yes, we do not play around with this.
Okay, actually that goes perfectly into the vaccination stories part. So this next part asks you to share any stories about COVID-19 vaccines and any vaccination related stories you may wish to tell. So did you get a vaccine, and any follow-up booster shots? If yes, what was it like? Was it easier, difficult for you in terms of scheduling, wait time?
So I did get the vaccines. I also got the boosters. To me, it was very easy and very convenient only because I work for the school district and they were provided for us. They went to our departments and they did the vaccines and they did the booster shots. Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you share a memory from the place where you were vaccinated or boosted?
Yes, I remember all of us being in a room and of course 6 feet apart. We had to get vaccinated. I remember seeing people moving their arms because the nurses would tell them like, you need to move your arms. We're going to go ahead and put the shot, but then you have to move your arm because if not, it's going to hurt more. So, and I remember having to go back to put the second one. And it was scary because when we did the booster, no, the third one, it was scary because it was in a school. So it wasn't in a closed environment. This was like cars. We had to line up, and you're talking about more than 100 cars waiting, and they would put the vaccine there in the car, and it was bad. And then just the aftermath that you would get sick. I got 103 fever and my aches and my body was aching, my arm, I couldn't move my arm. So to me, it was not a very good experience.
Yeah, I know of a lot of people that got the side effects like really bad, like they got really sick for like, I mean, most of them had only lasted like a day or two, but
yeah. I got them sick. Besides, I had COVID 3 times. So
3 times? Oh my gosh. Wow. Like before you were vaccinated or even like after?
The first time that I got it, everything was closed like around March for us in the district, and I got it in June. Then the second one, I got it in November, I want to say, and the last one I got it in September. So I had 3 already.
Wow. Well, you survived it. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now personal impact. So these next set of questions, Mina, are going to ask you about how COVID-19 has impacted your life in the way of your career and your family. So, I mean, like you shared with me in your pre-interview that you have children. Has COVID-19 impacted your family life in terms of the way you interact? Can you share some stories/examples on how you and your children have adapted your family interactions during the pandemic?
Yes. So I have kids. I have 2 kids. One of my son is 25, and then I have a 24-year-old, and then I do have a 22-year-old. So they are all grown. They don't live with me no more. But it impacted me because if I would have them home, I would watch over them. And it's really hard not to have them with me because now they're all grown up and they live by themselves. So it's not like if I can tell them like, okay, we're all going to get the vaccine. We're all going to go together and get the vaccine. I would take decisions for them. So now they're grown up. They have to decide if they want the vaccine or not. And that really gets me very worried because I had to actually like push my daughter to get the vaccine and push it. And I did push one of my sons, but I believe he'd never got the vaccines. But yes, that impacted me in that way with my kids. I really want them to get the vaccine, but like they're adults, I can't force them to do that anymore. And in my job, it also affected me because, well, I wasn't able, like for Dior and for Estee Lauder, I'm a makeup artist and freelancer for fragrances. It was really hard because I'm a people person. I like to touch them. I like to like talk to them. You couldn't talk to them. You couldn't get close to them. We were not able to do makeup. We couldn't touch them. So that was really hard for my career. And that was really, really hard for my work. We're barely getting back again, being able to touch the customers.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. How has COVID-19 impacted the lives of your children, like them, like as individuals, like as far as you know, how has it impacted their lives?
Well, with my daughter, she's a hairdresser, so it impacted her because the salons were closed. So she was not making any money. She was not working. And that was really, really hard for her. And of course, emotionally, everything, physically, everything was really hard for her. For my son, he was an essential worker, so he was still working. He would go to work, he worked in a restaurant, but he would just deliver. So he wasn't impacted that much, but my daughter was the one that was impacted even more.
Okay. Yeah, that actually ties into the next question. So we can just, I guess, like, since you kind of already answered it, we'll just skip this one.
Okay.
Okay, so how did your children and you cope the first week of the pandemic back in 2020? What changes were made?
So once again, they live in their own house. I live in my house, but it impacted us because I wanted them close to me. I wanted to know that they were fine, but they live somewhere else. So it was hard. I just had to trust that they were okay.
Yeah, I can imagine that the stress of being a parent and when your kids don't live with you.
Yes.
Yeah, because you don't know, like you're not used to seeing them all the time anymore.
Oh, you can't tell them, and okay, you're gonna go get a vaccine. You can't do that no more.
Okay, so now for career. So next, Nina, we are going to discuss questions that focus on career/job. So just to get some background on your job or jobs, you can describe both. Can you recall when you started and why did you start these jobs/careers, and what are your job descriptions?
Okay, so I have been working for the school district for 21 years. I started working there because I wanted the weekends off and I wanted to be around my kids. I work with special education students, and I got that job because I love working with kids. I love kids. I'm good with kids. And of course, I also wanted to be around my kids. Then I started working as a freelancer for fragrances for Dior and Estee Lauder. And I love it because I am a people person. I love to be speaking to people. I love everything that's retail. But then I started to do makeup. So then eventually I became a makeup artist. So as a makeup artist, I have to touch people, like, demonstrate skincare, foundation, lipsticks. So I work very close with the customer. I do need to be more than 6 feet together with them. So, and in those jobs, I have like around maybe like 12 years with Dior and Estee Lauder combined.
Okay. What inspired you to become a gig worker or a business owner/, freelancer? What was your education requirement?
So I did have my cosmetology license. So that helped me a lot with makeup artists. And the reason why I got that job, honestly, was because I wanted to work my Social Security. And with the school district, it's only a retirement. So I did want to work my Social Security.
Okay. Can you share with me some of your happiest moments of your jobs before the pandemic began?
Well, for the district is seeing my kids. And of course, I work with all three schools, which is elementary, middle school, and high school. Just seeing them, their involvement and how they grow throughout the year. That makes me really, really happy. Them coming in and giving me a hug and telling me, ma'am, you're the best, and things like that. It was really like that gives me happiness. For Dior and Estee Lauder, it's just like doing a makeover and making that person, that woman, feel special, and making them, just letting them know that they're so beautiful with or without makeup. Like, that's what I love about that job.
How did the COVID-19 pandemic affect your job the first several months, or jobs, plural? Sorry, I forgot to add the S.
It affected me because we were not able to work. So we had to stay home. So in the beginning, I was not getting a paycheck. So that was really hard for me because bills were still coming in. So I was worried, I was stressed out, anxiety kicked in, and I was scared. I was scared to lose my house. I was scared to lose my car. I was scared for everything.
Yeah, I remember it was a very scary time because we didn't know what was going to happen when it came to money and everything. Yeah. Can you share with me how COVID-19 has altered your business? Well, in this case, your career in any way? If no, you know.
Well, now it's good. No, in no way.
Okay. How has balancing two jobs been during the past 2 years in the pandemic?
Oh, it is really, really hard because my day starts at 4 in the morning and it ends at 8 at night. So it's really hard.
Yeah, I can imagine with balancing two jobs and then yeah, and especially with it at least like the first year when it was the hardest. I can imagine the stress that you were put on.
I know.
Okay. Next question. What are your thoughts on the masks at work?
So I thought it was very important for us to wear a mask only because there were situations where if you didn't go to work, you did not get paid. So we had a lot of people going to work and they were actually sick. So the mask at least gave you that protection that you had to wear it. It was like obligated to wear it. So I did like the mask enforcement only because of that, because I did know a lot of people that were going to work even though they had COVID.
Okay. How has your business adapted to pandemic conditions to provide support for yourself, you, and other freelancers slash business owners?
It's adapted in the way that the company never left me by myself. They gave me unemployment, both of the Dior, and that's what really helped me. Like they looked out for me.
That's good. You know,
Yeah.
I know of a lot of companies that didn't do that for their employees. Either they just let them go or
Yeah, I know.
even the support. That's good. Okay, so last question of this section. Is there anything you would like to add or share about your jobs? Like anything you would like to add?
No, I think I went over everything.
So this next section is on the lockdown, income, and family challenges. So these next few questions are to understand how exactly the pandemic, specifically the lockdowns in the Rio Grande Valley, affected your income along with your family at home, which in this case would be you and your husband.
Yes.
So how did the COVID-19 pandemic affect your job after the lockdowns in 2020 to 2021? More so, when the retail stores all closed in spring 2020, how did this affect your income and family, and how has it changed over the last 2 years?
So in the beginning, it did affect us because we were not getting paid. We were not getting paid. So it was scary. But then, like I was saying, the companies did come in. They did give me support. And I was getting a check that was, and I got another check from the government. So actually, we were getting paid more not working than us working, going actually to work. So that really helped.
Okay. Um, okay, so being a gig worker, how has the pandemic changed the way you work slash interact with customers and coworkers? And what was your initial reaction when you went back to work after the lockdowns?
So in the beginning, we were not allowed to touch customers. We were not allowed to do any interaction with any customer. But now that we went back slowly, we have been able to do makeup again, to do skincare. So I feel like it's already going a little bit back to normal.
Oh, give me 1 second because my cats are. Hold on, give me 1 second.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Next question. Okay. How has the COVID-19 pandemic affected your? Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. Mm, okay. Let me just scratch on this part for you. Okay. More so, when the country went on lockdown in 2020, how did this affect your income, and how has your income coped over the last 2 years?
So the pandemic, uh, it didn't affect it because the government kicked in and helped us. But this past 2 years, believe it or not, business has been very good. We have been getting a lot of hours. And I even got a raise with one of the companies just so they could keep me and I could go back to work. So to me, that was really good.
That is really good. That's like, wow.
Yeah, they gave me a $3 raise so I could stay with the company.
Oh, that's really, really good.
Yes.
How did the COVID-19 pandemic affect you and your husband during the lockdowns in 2020 to 2021? What can you share about being a gig worker along with being a parent at the same time over the past 2 years?
Well, it affected me because we had to stay home, of course. And it affected my husband because he didn't go to work either. So even though he was an essential worker, summer comes around and the whole district was shut down. But it affects us even more because in the district, if you don't work, they don't have unemployment. So they didn't pay him all of those days that he didn't work in the summer. So that really affected our income.
Okay, how have you seen COVID-19 impact your ability to work? For example, when were those impacts first experienced, and how has COVID-19 impacted you over the past 2 years?
So the way that it impacted me, it was that, like I was telling you, I did get COVID 3 times. So me going to work, sometimes I get very exhausted. I get very tired. And I do have anxiety once in a while. Like I think it's all because of COVID. It's really hard.
Well, yeah, I can imagine it was also, I can imagine it must have been scary too, like after having had COVID multiple times and then
I know, right?
get scared going back to work thinking, oh my God, what if I get it again? Or
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well, with this question, in your case, I'll just you never worked from home, right? At
No,
all? Like never? You never had to?
no.
Okay, then I'll skip this one. Okay, have you had to take on any extra work duties because of COVID-19 or due to the lockdowns? I know you mentioned you had to serve food, right? That was something
Yeah.
they made the some of the extra work you had to do.
Yes. And even though like over here in the schools, we have to work, like let's say if somebody's absent, you have to pick up their work too. Like whatever they're responsible, we have to do it. And even like just delivering the kids to their houses, it's super, like the routes are so long that it's like you're working twice as hard now because of COVID, because a lot of people do not want to come back to work. They're scared. So a lot of people are still staying home. So people that decided to come back to work, those are the people that are overworked now.
Yeah, that's yeah. I remember like driving by sometimes in like the schools, whether for whatever it was, whether it was for like COVID tests or for food or for anything the schools were giving out, there was like lines, like the lines would go so far because like como also a lot of people were struggling with money, they were struggling to buy food and things like that. So
Yes.
it's a good thing that the school did it, but I can imagine how hectic it was just by the seeing the lines.
I
Yeah.
know it's in the sun.
Oh yes, that's true. And it wasn't like it was during the summer because the pandemic began in late spring, so it was already going into summer. Yeah, it was really, really hot. And here in the valley with the 100-degree weather.
I know.
Okay, so were you sent home right after spring break of 2020, or was it until later on? Can you remember like any, like when exactly you were
Yes,
home?
for lockdown, I can remember exactly the day only because it fell in spring break in my birthday. It was like March 11th, 12th. My birthday is March 6th. So they sent us home March the 11th, around there. And with the freelancing, they closed us down March 16th, the day of my birthday. Yep.
Oh, on your birthday.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, that must have been not a fun birthday.
Yes, my boss called me and I'm like, oh my gosh, you remember my birthday? I was so excited. She's like, sorry, like you're going in furlough. That means like you don't have a job until we come back. I'm like, oh.
Like you thought she was calling to say happy birthday.
Yeah.
It's like, I said, no, you're getting sent home. Wow, that sucks though.
I know.
Like that year, your birthday, you got some pretty like changing news like you didn't expect.
I know.
Well, I know you already did answer that you did receive some sort of compensation from being sent home with the company.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, last question from the section. What were some good memories that you have from the time of the lockdowns? Like any fun stories that maybe you have from, you know, you and your husband during the lockdowns?
Yeah.
Like some good
So
stories.
I am a workaholic. I work a lot. So being home with my husband, oh my God, it just made us fall in love again and just, have time to go outside and sit down and actually just breathe the air and see the stars. And I can honestly say that I just fell in love with my husband again. Like it was worth me being home with him. Yes.
Aw, that's really cute. At least
Yeah,
there was a pro, that came from the lockdowns that you and your husband kind of,
yeah, best partner to be home with.
Okay, so final questions on COVID-19 pandemic. So this last section asks you to share any stories that you have about this pandemic and the response by local, state, and national elected officials. Feel free to respond or pass on any of the questions.
Oh.
So do you feel satisfied with the local response to COVID-19 in Brownsville, Rancho Viejo, and Cameron County over the last 2 years?
I think they could have done a little bit more, give us more information. I really think so. And given us more supplies.
Okay. Are you satisfied with the state response to COVID-19 led by Governor Abbott over these last couple of years?
Yes.
Okay. How do you feel about the national response to COVID-19 led by President Trump in the year 2020 and then President Biden from 2001 to present?
I feel like they withhold a lot of information, important information to us. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I agree there. Okay. If you had the power of a political office to respond to COVID-19, what would you do differently?
I would want them to be honest and to tell us the truth. And that way, at least they don't catch us off guard. And I believe if they would have taken responsibility or just tell us what was going on, people would have been protected a little bit more and not a lot of people would have died.
This is a special year in our national democracy because it's a midterm election voting year. Do you plan to vote? And if so, is the issue of COVID-19 going to factor into your votes?
Yes, I am going to vote because I always vote. And I think, yes, of course, I'm going to take, I do want COVID, it is going to be a lot, like who's going to do, more for us for COVID and things like that. It will make my decision who I'm going to vote for.
Okay. Will you consider the national response to the COVID-19 pandemic in your vote for a presidential candidate?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to share with me about your experiences with COVID-19 that I have not asked about?
No, I think you went over everything.
What impact or purpose do you hope your story may have on listeners of the Voices of a Pandemic digital archives?
I just want them to know that here in Brownsville, it was hard for us in the beginning, and I believe it was hard for everybody else. But just us being a little town, sometimes they don't take us that serious. They don't send as much help like they're supposed to, like the way they do it to big companies, like to big cities like New York and other places. But I just want them to know that even little towns need the help.
Yeah, I agree there. Okay, I just realized that the last question is a repeat.
Oh,
but yeah, okay. Well, I guess just to finalize, like, there's nothing more that you would like to add? Any other experiences you would like to share to add on to your file?
no. Everything was perfect.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Myrna, for sharing your stories with me with the Voices of a Pandemic Oral History Project. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for thinking about me.
Yes, you were the first person that I thought of when for this. I was like, I want to ask Myrna. She's a good storyteller. So. You are, you are a very people person. You know how to talk to, that's really good.
Thank you so much. I hope that it was helpful for you.